Well, Mervyn, welcome back from Peru. You're back just over a week now, finding your Irish legs again and adjusting.
Yes, and jet lag hasn't been too bad this time, but I still find myself at times either not quite easy just to go to sleep or sometimes falling asleep at the wrong time. So, but yeah, and just want to say, Tracy, thank you to everybody for their prayers for Desi and I in Peru, and my thanks particularly to Desi too for his willingness to come with me. And I had promised him it was going to be an easier regime than the team in August 23. I'm not sure if he believes me now because we did have quite a busy schedule, but in the Lord's goodness, we got there safely and we got back safely, and all our meetings went well. And it was a very encouraging time overall.
That's good. And you stayed with John and Lourdes while you were there. How are they keeping, and how is retirement for them?
Yes, we stayed in Casa Brew, or as I call it, Hotel Brew, because it really is 5-star. And I got my own little room again out in the outer courtyard where my snoring cannot be heard. John and Lourdes were in reasonably good form. John hasn't been too well over the last few months, and he's been suffering from high blood pressure. He is now on quite a restrictive diet, which Lourdes is keeping him to quite regimentally for his own good because of her love for him. And his blood pressure has come down a little bit. I think they'd like to see it coming down more. And I think that is probably John's a little bit down because of that. I think as well he's adjusting to retirement, but continuing to teach in the seminary, as I think he will do, as long as the Lord enables him. They are planning to come home in April, so their daughter Yuri's out there at the moment with their two younger granddaughters, Rebecca and Lenora, and they're there till April, and they're planning to come home with them in April.
Lovely.
I think till July, and then Lord willing, I think their eldest granddaughter Stephanie is going to go back with them. So I think at least being here maybe for a time will be good. And while we were there, Lourdes got her 10-year visa to the UK, which means that she can travel backwards and forwards for the next 10 years without reapplying for any more visas. So that was a real answer to prayer.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Well, that's good. That's something for us to look forward to be able to meet up with them again and hear a wee bit more from them. So that'll be something to look forward to for next year.
Yes, exactly. And I think they're planning already to be at Missions Night, Lord willing.
Excellent.
On the 13th of May. We'll get a plug in for that. Yes, we're back in Ballyhinch Baptist as well. So
excellent.
Yes.
That's good. Excellent. So you were last in Peru in the summer of 2023 when we were there as a team. And nothing stands still anywhere for long, but I'm sure you saw some changes from that time. So how have things progressed in Peru since you were last there?
Yes, and that time we were there in August 23, I suppose while we saw some of the workers, I didn't have the opportunity to spend much time with them individually, but Desi and I were able to visit each of the contacts, speak to each of our workers, and we currently support about 14 individuals and couples out in Peru. People might not be aware of that, so actually I feel like our largest team that we support is in the land of Peru. And I suppose the joy, Tracy, this time is to see that with John and Lourdes officially retiring now, the work is in the hands of our Peruvian brothers and sisters. And I have to say, I think that's been a really smooth transition. And overall, what's happening in Peru is very encouraging. One of the highlights, we were there, the first Sunday we were there, we went to a joint service of all the churches in the association. Now, the association's a lot younger than ours. It was only formed in 2015. It'll be 10 years old next year. But about 500 adults and children gathered together. Churches from Moquegua, from Ilo, from Ite, from Tacna itself, where most of the churches are based. That was really encouraging us to see those churches working together and to see, I think, a real sense of partnership and working together among the pastors and the leadership in the churches. So there's growth and maturity there. Some churches are growing. The second Sunday we were there, the Pandavida Church had 5 baptisms, 5 testimonies, 5 people added to the local church. That was a real joy to see. Other churches, Tracy, I suppose, like there's the Vida churches in Tacna, Palabra de Vida, Luz de Vida, a church called Betel. Those churches are smaller, struggling in some cases, some difficulties maybe within those churches. And so, like here, there are churches that are having really encouraging times and growing. There are churches that are maybe struggling and going through more difficult times. And I think our role, if you like, as a mission, as an association of churches here over the next 10 years, will be to support the work that those churches are doing. Very encouraged with how the radio station is progressing. The guy, Julio Mamani, who's looking after the radio station now, doing a great job, and they're broadcasting 24/7. The gospel's going out, and they're also connecting the work of the radio a lot more to the local churches on the ground. So each church throughout the day gets a little bit of a promo about the local church, where it is, etc. So that's been a really good move as well. And when we were there, the new director of the seminary had actually just been appointed, and he just accepted the call. And he is currently a pastor in the McKegwa Church, Jimmy Uamani, but he'll be taking up that post on the 1st of January. And I think that's a really encouraging forward step for the seminary. And depending on when this broadcast goes out, in December, they're going to have their graduation service, end of the academic year in Peru. Their summer holidays, January, February, March. But there's 15 students graduating, and 9 of them have completed the diploma course accredited here by the Irish Baptist College. So that's been a real joy as well to see that. And I think, again, part of our role will be to help some of those emerging leaders in Peru maybe to continue their studies and maybe do more advanced studies. And the goal would be to raise up some homegrown teachers in time who can teach in the seminary in Tacna as well. So that was a very encouraging thing to see too.
Mm-hmm. And 2 places that sort of stick in my mind from the time that we were there was the very, very fledgling work in the 10th of May area of Tacna, and the other one was Carumas and Henry's work attempting to re-establish a work there and reach out into the villages in that high altitude. How are those things been going? How are things going with that?
Well, if I can start with Carumas first, Tracy. So what the joy was that joint service on the first Sunday we were there, there was a group of people from Carumas who are meeting in the church, well, not the church, I think the group there, we can call it. There were some people from Sequoia, the village that we visited with the amazing journey, and we're out in the open air. And there were some people from Cambruni as well, a third village. And so just to see those, and some of those fairly new believers, as part of this overall group of 500, they were delighted to be there, and it was such a joy to see them. One lady came in her traditional dress, so there's a real sense in which here we have different cultures even within Peru, but one in Christ gathering together to worship Him. And in talking to Henry and Sonia on their own, we did discover that Henry actually has a hearing problem. So we're going to see if we can help to get hearing aids for him, because he's no hearing in his left ear at all, and his right ear, it's decreasing slowly. So we're looking into that, and people can pray about that. But talk about vision. So I asked him, well, how many villages are there in the area? And he listed about 15 villages in the sort of Carumas Valley that he would see, if you like, that they have, if you like, a responsibility to in terms of bringing the gospel. So in time, they'd love to see a team maybe in the Carumas Valley. For now, they're reaching into those 3 places, but he's got 15 on his heart, and they're just a great couple, committed to being there long haul. They're 2 girls, Diana and Yamileth. They live down in Ilo, which is 4 to 5 hours drive, 4 to 5 hours drive. The girls are there during the week. They join them on some weekends when they can, but because they're going to university and secondary school, they sacrifice as a family that time together. Now, Diana's 21, so she's able to look after her younger sister, but that's quite a big sacrifice as well. But they are very committed and dedicated to what they're doing. So that was a real joy to see. So pray for the Carumas Valley, and pray for those other villages, and pray in time maybe the Lord will raise up others to go and join them, because they won't be able to reach and minister to 15 groups if they begin to emerge in the valley. But just to see that work's continuing, and God is at work. So The 10th of May then, and just to explain, it might sound a bit of a strange name of a place, but in Peru, there's places like the 3rd of December, the 5th of November, because when people form a legal association in Peru in terms of the land area, like the district, they often name it after the date that it's been recognised by the government, hence the 10th of May. So it was lovely to go to the 10th of May on a Sunday afternoon after that baptismal service in Panda Vida, and talk about commitment, Tracy. So some of those people in Panda Vida were there at 9 o'clock for an adult Bible class. They then had their church service was started at 10. It was a baptismal service with 5 baptisms, 5 testimonies, a very clearly gospel message in a sermon that was probably about 35-40 minutes. The overall service ended about 1:45. We'd fellowship lunch at about 2:45, 20 to 3. We were in a van off to the Agua de Vida, which is one of the new church plants, and the 10th of May. Those people went to the 10th of May, served, were involved in the service, back to Tacna at about 10 to 6 for the evening service in Panda Vida, 6 o'clock. So they're committed to the cause of the gospel. And 10th of May was lovely, Tracy. I suppose for me what stood out was there were local people from that district coming to hear the word of God. I think there was one believing couple, maybe one family who never really had heard much of the gospel. And to see actually a lady who's Elizabeth Almanza, the registrar of the seminary, her mother moving her seat and coming alongside a man who was struggling to find Ephesians in his Bible, and her just helping him to find, and the rawness of that here's somebody who's maybe never held a Bible in his hand before. And there were children meeting in, I suppose, what we would say on a dirt floor. There was plywood on the wall, very basic, sitting on little stools, no data projector, no whiteboards, no colouring in pencils, and yet that's what we're hoping through the Baptist Youth Sunday School project this year, to raise funds to see if we can help maybe finish the construction of some of those Sunday school situations, maybe provide better equipment for them, maybe even provide some teaching resources in Spanish, of course, for those contexts. So folks, if you're hearing about the Baptist Youth Sunday School project in your church, please do get supported and get your mums and dads and grannies and granddads and aunts and uncles and everybody else to support that, because it'd be lovely to try to help some of those. In Agua de Vida on the 10th of May, and a couple of other places where maybe they don't have the resources we have here. So, and that's, I think, Tracy, is part of what I see us doing going forward as well as a mission, as an association of churches here, is helping and supporting and coming alongside what's happening in Peru. We're no longer, if you like, setting the policy or making the decisions. The churches are doing that now. That's in their gift and word, like our churches here. But our role, I think, now is to continue to pray, to continue to support and encourage where we can. And I think our brothers and sisters in Peru are very grateful for the missionaries who went and brought the gospel to their land, going back as far as 1927. But also too, they're very grateful for the continuing prayers and support that they're receiving from our churches here.
And it is encouraging to us that they too are beginning to look at Peru 100 as we're calling it here, and so we are attempting to involve them in that and to mark that with them in some ways as well. And even some of the churches in the Sierra, we've become aware of how they are looking at that as well.
Yes, it's lovely that I think there's a growing excitement in Peru about marking this. They do like anniversaries in general, but they are very excited about this. I suppose, again, quite a significant milestone in terms of marking 100 years since the first missionaries left these shores to go to the land of Peru. And so we have asked them ways in which they want to be involved and also to get their input. So there's already 1 or 2 videos being done in Peru. We've made a list of people that we want to try and glean from in terms of getting their insights and their stories and their background. And the technology is such now, which is great, that actually there's some of these tools now, Tracy, that can translate the Spanish into English without having but so it can be dubbed, if you like, fairly easy. So we're looking forward to having as many of those stories being told from our brothers and sisters in Peru, both people who can look back, but also to some of the present day workers and some of the people in the churches who again recognize, well, we wouldn't be here under God, humanly speaking, if you like, if those missionaries hadn't come and brought the gospel to us. So they're excited, and we are hoping, Lord willing, in 2027 have Elisario and hopefully maybe his wife and family here with us for our missions night. But also too, they are planning in 2027 to have some events there to mark Peru 100 as well, and they are very excited about it.
Excellent, brilliant. And we're obviously continuing to work here towards that as well. And if people have any memories or stories or memorabilia that they'd like to share with us, we're still very, very happy to hear about that and to receive that. So yeah,
yes. Well, no, Tracy, we appreciate all the work you're doing, because I just ever increasingly seem to be giving you and asking Tracy, what about this, and so there's lots of work to do. But even in the looking back, and obviously Luke's done a great work in the magazine articles already, and if people haven't read episode 3, which focuses in more on the work in Argentina, and then there's 3 more episodes to come, Lord willing, in 2025. It actually is very exciting looking back and seeing what God has done, and seeing the fruit of that. Even that some of those churches in Argentina, well, I haven't had the opportunity yet to visit. Maybe someday we'll get there. But I've heard that one of those churches in Argentina that's still going strong has 1,200 members. And that's just the fruit of what God has done. So it is exciting, and yet looking back also gives us a springboard, if you like, into the future. And that, I suppose, we've touched on this before, but I was in Spain just before I went to Peru, and the needs in Spain in terms of towns, people 10, 15, 50, 60,000 town we were in, 60,000 people, no known evangelical church in an area where there's very little. It reminded me actually very much like of the west of Ireland, barren sort of physically, if you like, landscape, but also spiritually just very dark, and where, if you like, Catholicism has reigned for centuries, and the gospel's had very little impact. So there's lots of challenges too, and we're hoping that Peru 100, and as we lead up to that, won't just be looking back and giving thanks to God, but it'll be a real springboard to challenge and encourage a fresh generation in our Sunday schools, amongst our young people and our young adults, to go and to take this gospel to the needy lands of France and Spain and beyond. And we had a lovely little encouragement before I went to Peru this time. We met somebody who actually was a former missionary in Peru, has written this little book for children, and her daughter's illustrated, and it looks like a fantastic resource. So, and that was really answered a prayer, because we were looking for something for that. So
absolutely.
So
it is lovely. It's a real treat to be able to read. So yeah, hopefully we can make that available.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so the Lord's goodness, there's lots of things that's encouraging, and I think to summarize, in Peru, there's lots of encouragement. There's still ongoing challenges. They still need our prayers. They still need our financial support, but ever increasingly, they are now directing the work. They're driving forward. They want to continue proclaiming Christ and planting churches in the land of Peru, and we want to continue supporting them and helping them in any way we can.
So how can we be praying for our brothers and sisters in Peru?
I think we can be praying, obviously, in prayer news we try to include 1 or 2 of our Peruvian brothers and sisters every week. We're going to have a week of prayer, obviously, in January, from the 5th to the 12th of January, and that'll be a great way where all of our Peruvian workers will be on that prayer bulletin, and people can be praying for them. And I think praying specifically for people like Elisario and Esther Vargas, as he really leads the work in Peru, and for the other pastors and so on, that they would work well together, continue to work well together. That I think in every church situation that God would add to the number in terms of people being saved, and also too that in some of the churches there's a great potential for future leaders. In other churches maybe there's maybe not such a great pool of potential future leaders. So to pray that God would raise up more men and women to help lead the churches in Peru going forward. Men, particularly the pastor, in situations where we are planting more churches, they're going to need more godly pastors, qualified men to do that. But men and women who can help, if you like, in their local churches. So I think strengthening what's there, and yet continuing to see the gospel, if you like, going out, because there's still areas in Peru as well, in the south of Peru, where we are mainly where our work is, where the churches are now. There's still a lot of areas where there's no real gospel witness, so there's lots of work yet to do.
Well, thank you, Mervyn. It's been good to catch up and to hear how things are in Peru and to chat things Peru, and I always enjoy that, so thanks for sharing with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Tracy.